Hello, welcome to today's video. We are going to be talking today in our series Shall I Partake, which is all about what should or shouldn't I do and involve myself with or take in and participate in. This is going to be a series where we really look at the energy and everything and our relationship with what it is and why we're doing it. So that's just a broad view. I'm going to be talking a little bit today about guilt and shame and trends in media and kind of like things to be cautious of. There's a lot of things that I watch and see in particular trends and social behavior that I'd really like to talk about. One of the major things I'd like to talk about in this series, also in a broad way. In addition, this series could cover things like what we eat, everything, because everything has energy. And the big theme of this video is centering on asking ourselves why we are doing something or hanging on to something or participating in something. We are in the year 2023 for numerology purposes. That is the number 7. So it's all about the focusing of the self and discipline of the self and like becoming more willful and clear about our own paths and desires as individuals, and our place in the world, like our impact basically. So 7 is also, in my opinion, about taking a look at the infrastructure within. So that's both on individual as well as collective body example. For example, government, or things like how we run our world, whether we feel like we're active participants in that or not, willing or not. It is important to take a look at all of these things in terms of infrastructure. So this year we'll probably be seeing, as we have been, a lot of changes in the infrastructure and questioning about like what it is we're doing, what the systems are in place for, and why. We're in the year of the rabbit, so that's all about prosperity, opportunity, growth, manifesting, and by that I mean creating in a very more fluid, faster way typically. It's more of a fast, considering if you're looking at speed as one of the faster animals, right? There's a tale in many cultures about rabbits and being fast, and animals compared with animals like turtles who are maybe a little bit more particular about what they do. So those are some things. Fertility, spring is considered with the rabbit, right? So those are some things to consider. And seasonally, I want us to look at the fact that we're entering fall right now and have just begun fall. So we are coming out of, I like to look at things in a very relative way. So we're coming out of the harvest season in August, right? So, and I like to compare this to things in nature, and I'm going to use examples of the body. So in terms of like eating and sleeping. So if you take a look at September and fall in a given structure compared to something like the body and its sleep and eating patterns, we're going to be generally talking about a little bit after harvest time. So we're looking at maybe more of a digestive period. And so we have kind of gotten our bounty for the year on a year's scale, right? And we're kind of like intaking it in, digesting it in, working with it, seeing what we want to do, kind of more of a full area of digestion and eating cycle. So this is more like an analytical, incorporative phase. Again, September, sept being a Latin prefix for the number 7, very much looking at the infrastructure and the self and what am I doing in the systems I'm implementing and why. This is the number 9 month, so 9 is all about fulfillment. It is about infinite expansion, and so especially coming after the harvest in the month of August, or 8. 8 is all about bringing everything together, all the skills, all the labor, all about cultivating. And then 9, we have the fulfillment era. We're looking at our abundance. We're looking at everything that we have and everything we've collected over the summer and consequently the year. So Now it's more of like a slower, analytical, step back a little bit, digestion. If we're looking at the sleep cycle, winter would be, in the northern hemisphere, would be considered that a sleep phase, right? And springtime is when we wake up. This is what I would consider the start of the year, is springtime. We are in the part of the year where the sunlight is going to gradually become less and less during the day. So those are things to consider when we're looking at the time period as today, right now. So what is all this coming to? What am I doing with everything that I have right now in the terms of a year span? So again, analyzing. Today is what, the 16th of September? 16, again, we have another 7 frequency, vibration, energy, 1 and 6 numerology. 16 would equate to 7 energy, essentially. So what it would be is, I believe it would be, yes, the second cycle of 7, essentially. So you'd have 0s, 1 through 9, basically. All cycles of numbers are going to rotate on a sequence of 9. So a 7 would be the first occurrence of the number 7. Second occurrence would be 16. So you would have 7 digits after the number 9. So the first cycle, 0 or 1 through 9, and then 10 through 18. So the second set of 7 would be 16. It's a little bit of explanation there. What I'm trying to bring that up for, and why that matters, is we're talking about already, is the number 7 and focusing on ourselves and what we bring to the table, taking also an inner look. And so combining all these elements together, these are helpful ways of looking at your time, day by day, week by week, month by month. The moon, I forgot to look up the moon phase. All right, I probably could have guessed, but being autistic to having ADHD, I was a little fumbled. But we just had a new moon. We're in the sun season of Virgo. Just means from our perspective on Earth, the Virgo constellation is in the background of where the sun is, from our vantage point. So, so if you're born in these months, every year, this time period is when the sun is in Virgo. That's why it's called Virgo season, for those who don't know. We just had a new moon, so new moons occur in the same astrological background as the sun and the moon being conjunct in terms of a new moon. So the new moon, if you didn't know already, is when the moon has no light in it. It's the beginning cycle. So we just finished out of that. We're in the what's called waxing crescent moon right now. So now, in particular, if you're looking at the moon phase, it's a really good time to be focusing again on, in my opinion, what I would say is inviting in and creating and taking a look at new patterns of behavior and stuff. We're in sun season Virgo. Virgo is all about taking care of the earth and the body and practicality and being very meticulous. So, and then the moon currently is in the sign Libra. So it was just in Virgo with the new moon a few days ago. Now the moon is in Libra. So Libra is all about balance and taking a look at everything. So very applicable to all the other things we're talking about in terms of time of the year, September, a little bit after the harvest or entering fall. So these are all things to kind of take a look at energetically speaking for today. So I want to start out each video kind of doing that. So today's topic I'm going to be talking about for Should I Partake In? We're going to be talking about specifically some things that have to do with social media, social pressure, trends, and as they relate to memes, but really trending is what I'm going to be talking about in particular today. I want to focus a little bit on how in and out of social media, but I'm going to be using social media as an example, we tend to, both ourselves and from the outside, from other people, we will tell other people what they should or shouldn't do. And it's a very natural thing. I'd like to first say it is, again, with the number 7, bringing things in from more of an individual perspective. We are individuals, there's no avoiding that. And while we might be ever infinite, changing and growing beings, and that's true, eternal as well in the larger sense, not corporal body sense, but even our bodies are constantly changing every day. Even if one day they may pass, the body might die once the spirit leaves at the end of the lifetime. even still every day during the lifetime, the body is in the process of dying, living, changing, going through cycles. So what do I want to say about this? It's very natural for the human individual, any kind of perspective, especially in this kind of existence we live in, which is very much me, centered of me and my environment, right? We are looking at everything in a relative way and how it relates to me. So I think it's a very natural thing when humans will want to ingest something that someone else has said or brought up or brought to attention and say, well, no, I would do it this way, or if it were me, it would seem like this. And so what I also want to talk about today is a little bit of trying to avoid the blanketing statements, the one-size-fits-all, which is, in my opinion, to a large degree, is already in discussion and analysis this year. In particular, you can see that on social media. So I kind of want to be bringing attention to that today. And I want to talk about labels. And so, like, when we're telling people what they should or shouldn't be doing, or how they should or shouldn't be, or this person is a this, whether you're doing that with yourself or others, there's a lot of that going on in a popular social atmosphere today about, like, this person, it seems narcissistic, and then you might have a meme that expresses this in a statement or example, or a TikTok that, you know, grows on this. And so the whole point of today is not to nitpick any certain specific theme of a video or meme, or, well, although I'll be using examples. Let's go ahead and bring up the example. Where is it? So I saw a meme today that was saying, don't use spiderweb decoration for fall Halloween time because birds, and it was listing this statistic about how many birds, and there's bird problems that die or get caught in nests or whatever, these fake materials that we use from factories as decoration. So when I'm doing these things in these videos, in particular today, as one of the main topics of today, is to not nitpick specific examples or specific labels themselves. There's nothing wrong with attaching to a particular label to a certain degree if it benefits you, if you get something from it. I think there's a lot of good use that comes out of some of these memes that highlight narcissistic personality disorder symptoms and other things like that, like ADHD, and I myself get a lot out of autism videos. So here's what I want to talk about with that. You want to be cautious, just like with anything, what you're intaking in your diet. So when we're intaking and thinking about these things, ingesting them, digesting them, right? And September is a good time to be aware of all these things and thinking about it. You know, what am I getting out of it? Why am I reacting to it if I am? Is it healthy for me? Does it resonate for me? And then there's also a point of that where with social media culture, and I think the human experience at large and its natural evolutionary point in this cycle of human development, I think it is very natural. But we want to take a look at and be cautious of how much are we bringing that in, and is that we're internalizing, okay? So I see this, and we can do this for other people as well, like this person has narcissistic XYZ disorder, and I'm going to therefore kind of attribute that to them in a very heavy X equals X way, and all blanketing statement way, where it blankets all of them as a person, and that it becomes less of a label and more of I am ADHD, rather than I have ADHD, or I experience things because of ADHD. So what I'm talking about is internalizing it to a degree where we're attaching ourselves. So we're internalizing it, and then we're also kind of externalizing ourselves and attaching to this label in terms of splitting from ourselves, right? And attaching, it's possible to attach too much to a label. So I just kind of want to talk about these things, while labels I think are very helpful in terms of breaking things down, understanding things, educating ourselves and others. It's a really wonderful thing. We want to be paying more attention to why we're ingesting it and how much are we taking it in, how much is it affecting our lives, do we want it to be when we realize this. A big question of today's video is why? Why are we doing this? So why? You know, if you're attributing labels to other people, and this becomes very popular in the social media cycle, and because of social pressure at large, and we're talking mostly about social media influences though, because then it becomes a trend, right? and people are talking about these things, and these things come to light. But the issue with these labels and words and specific memes and examples can be very blanketing very quickly. And the human experience is this ever-changing thing, not one size fits all, as a lot of people on the planet today are figuring out. So we want to kind of step back and say, it's okay. What I'm saying in my personal opinion is, it's okay to be attaching to certain things, certain labels, certain examples as we learn more terminology, like boundaries, for example. These things can be really healthy, but they can also quickly lose their meaning in the zeitgeist, this swirling vortex of social media, and externalizing it by wanting to bring it in to ourselves and attach to it and then project it, right? Because of what, defending ourselves, our insecurity, or attaching it to someone outside of us in our life where we can easily blame for things that have happened to us, when it's arguably much healthier to take a look at the inside and what I can do about it. How does this affect me? Why am I ingesting this? Is this something I want to be ingesting? So those are some main things I wanted to bring up today. What are we perpetuating and why? I just talked about that. So yes, this all kind of just involves, in my opinion, a heightened awareness. It's just like being aware of what foods are good for your body. And again, these things don't apply to every single person the same way. And we've been living in a frame of structure, right? Infrastructure, globally and socially, and especially nationally, in this Western world of the United States in particular. Capitalism, very individual, and we're very free market, right, with our products. Now we're kind of learning things like, well, sugar may not be inherently bad on its own. Maybe it's the processing. Maybe it's the amount that we're ingesting. Maybe carbohydrates are harmful to some, but helpful for others, depending on their lifestyle. So there's always so many things to consider. You know, if every label was going to be all blanket for everything, for every person, then, for example, every person that's born on the same day of the year would be a literal exact copy of the other. And we find that that's not true. And if you know anything about astrology, this is a common misconception about systems like astrology, right? Where we're trying to fixate too much on X equals X. This sign means this. I am a Gemini, I am a Sun Gemini, and that means this. And so all Sun Geminis are going to be the same. But what we know, especially if you've delved into astrology a little bit, is that everyone's different. We all have, first of all, we're all born at different times of the day, different years. So whether it's the same day of a year and the same day of another year, there are energetic and physical differences. What part of the world are you born? You know, all of these things come into play. Where is the moon? Where are all of the planetary objects in our vicinity? All of these things, even galaxy clusters far away, exhibit these forces like gravity and things like of that nature that do influence, just like the moon influences the tide, and the tides influence the weather systems, the moon influences the weather systems here. All of this stuff is related, and when we attach to it, we say, oh, the moon or Mercury is to blame for all these problems. It's because we're fixating too much, and we do the same kind of thing with labeling. So these things can be helpful, but if you attach your whole being, your whole meaning of existence to it, that's when we kind of go overboard a little bit or inward too much, and it becomes problematic, and usually eventually outwardly it becomes a problem. And you see this today in my example I'd like to bring up is these memes that are very funny and accurate about the planets having these statements saying, stop blaming your problems on me, you know, Becky, or whoever you are, you know. So there is a lot of like externalization that goes out too with this, which is like, I have no culpability, I am at victim, or at I'm at the, oh, I can't think of the word. I'm at the mercy, thank you, I'm at the mercy of this planetary influence or whatever. I am at the mercy of having ADHD and having to succumb. Like, all these things can mean something, but they don't mean that they are fixed for you forever and that you can't learn and adapt from them, or So the trick is to kind of step back a little bit, analyze, have a heightened awareness. Why are we ingesting this? What is it doing for me? Is it something that is helping me? Is it helping my mood? Is it making me feel better about myself? Is it helping me educate things? Or am I projecting, or am I trying to deviate from something that I feel insecure about with myself? These are all just things to analyze, right? This is the point of today's video. I'm thinking of the example of FDA labels on foods and supplements. Like that. The idea, generally conceptually, for that is to say, hey, this item has such and such, and maybe an excess sugar amount, or maybe this contains hydrogenated corn oil. So like those things over the last 50, 60 years have become mandatory to be labeled, and this can be very beneficial. It doesn't necessarily mean that you should or shouldn't partake of an item that has this particular thing about it. The good thing about the FDA labels, for the large part, is that they announce to whoever's purchasing it, this may contain this, and this or this might be affected, if you're pregnant or nursing, etc. So those are all just things. And I think if we look at these on a general application process, we can apply this to many different things by thinking of the FDA label example analogy, where, for example, let's see, like for not using spider webs in your decoration. The one thing I'd like to bring up about that is, whether it's intentional or not, the common wave, current, gravitational pull of social media and human attention on the superficial level is one of guilt, shame. You should be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. And so they bring a statistic in the meme. And this is all, I'm not blaming on individuals or the creators of a meme. This is all just players of the whole wave. Like, this is parts of the whole thing. So there is an energy momentum that's going, and nothing is really to blame. It's just something to kind of step back and have heightened awareness and be aware of, right? So we're looking at FDA labels. It announces something to us. So in the case of this spider web meme, it's not even necessarily harmful to use this statistic, but what's the energy? This is the big part of the video. Why? What is the energy? What's the purpose here? And the energy is saying, don't, shaming, guilting. Animals will die or be very much harmed by your action. How selfish of you, is very blaming. Okay, so we want to be aware of that. While if we apply the FDA label analogy to it, it can just simply be, oh, that's something that I've learned. And to be aware of, if I'm sharing a meme or saying something, or seeing a meme that says this, to be aware of the energy of trying to constrict and restrict, because science shows again and again in many different areas that does the opposite effect, right? When we try to restrict, constrict, the legalization of drugs, for example, causes more problems with drugs. Illegalization of prostitution causes way many more sex crime issues and prostitution issues, for example. So it's just nice to be aware of these things. So even if let's take me as an example, and I'm seeing these things in energy, I can say, well, this meme is shaming people for what they do, and it may or may not harm other birds. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But also, there are many birds, and the birds will keep on living. And it shouldn't be about shaming someone into not, like, there's nothing wrong with having fun and putting out decorations. Is also the flip side of the coin. But if you want to be conscientious about it, right? And if that's something that bothers you, then maybe that's something you stop doing. But to tell someone else that they should do this, the prescriptory nature of these, you should live like this, we all should live the same, that's never going to happen, and it's also not healthy, and it's also not natural. You don't see it in nature. There's a myriad of infinite types of things that happen all the time, and things are seasonally changing all the time within species, within the time frame of seasons, with weather. So it's really important to kind of step back and not fixate too much on these things. Let's see. And it reminds me, I was also going to bring up another example, a similar example of, like, should you drink Diet Coke? Should you drink things that have aspartame? And ultimately, on a true nature of energy, people react to different substances differently, and it's not the substance itself that is necessarily wrong. However, there might be things that are true about it. It may cause this, generally speaking, over time. But none of that really matters in terms of the individual. Like, every individual is different. It's not that aspartame itself is going to be bad, and if I ingest it, I am forever ruined, right? It's this heavy fixation I'm talking about. You want to kind of like peel back. Maybe for you, aspartame makes you feel worse, and if you find that you take it out of your diet, you feel better. For other people, it's not going to matter because their mood, their health, their lifestyle, their, frankly, in terms of law of attraction, their relationship with something like aspartame and Diet Cola, Diet Coke may be such a positive one that the effects that could be negative from an ingredient like aspartame, if they're consuming it, may not even stick in the body because of other things they have going on. So all these things are not fixated, and they're not going to be blanket statements for everyone and blanket truths. So these are things to remember. So my point is, we kind of want to be cautious of both what we're ingesting and what we're prescribing to other people. Because if aspartame is bad for you, maybe it's just that for your calling, for this example, you might just want to share general facts, not that you will get this from this, but that aspartame studies can cause effects like this on the body. Like if you look at the spiderweb example, using fake materials, it could very much damage nature and cause issues to birds. But I promise you, on a larger scale, the birds are going to be just fine in a species level looking at it, okay? But it is good to be cautious of our impact on things. So there is no right or wrong is my answer to this and my focal point of this. It's like we want to be asking, stepping back, asking why, what are we ingesting, why, what is the energy behind it? Can I learn something from it, like the FDA label analogy, and say, okay, this is something to be aware of. I may still choose to use these decorations. That doesn't make me a bad person. That doesn't mean I'm doing something to harm the environment. Those are all beliefs, and they may or may not be true. And truth isn't always good or bad. Sometimes true things end up being things we really often don't want to experience. And then true things can also be, well, we'd really rather prefer the truth of the things that we'd like. So again, these things are very flexible and not fixed. So we want to be asking, like, what is our role in this? I also wanted to use an example of poop, like poop being really gross in a lot of people's opinions, right? And pooping itself can be not fun sometimes, like with diarrhea. There can be these very graphic, very smelly, very off-putting things about something like poop. But at the same time, poop itself can be very fertilizing, very nourishing in creating life and vegetation, and is often used to create delicious, healthy vegetation and produce. So that kind of thing. And another example of that with that same thing is we might look at it as this negative, bad thing when it's out and in your face. Like if you got poop all over your hands, gross, right? That can be insanitary, right? But if you look at it from a different perspective, poop itself is not bad. It's a really good thing, right? It helps eliminate things that are unpleasant for your body. And again, it's all about this cycle about what are we ingesting and why. And the waste gets eliminated. So while we can look at that as being a negative aspect of a person or human existence in the body, it is actually very positive. So really what I'm saying is it's all about perspective. And should I partake in this? Should I attach myself to this meme? Or should I just learn something from it and share my own educational experience or statistics if I am that fervent or adamant about it, or if it's something that's important and significant to you, you'll have a much better effect on the world at large, including yourself, if you just list things in terms of more of an FDA label way and less of a prescriptive, prescribing, you must do this, do whatever you do, don't do this. Because also that has nothing to do with you. You have no real, true influence over anyone else's life. I mean, there is some kind of external influence, but they're in charge of their own life. And when you displace yourself from your center of self and try to tell others what to do, it also pinches you off from yourself and almost always, if not always, puts you in a place of feeling lower because you're finding the need to fight and defend for people that you have no control over. So if you're really, like, for a specific example, wanting to help others by raising awareness about aspartame, then simply displaying for others to observe is a much healthier way than putting a ban on something. And bans have been effective in other countries, but from my belief system, whether or not they're beneficial and actually achieve results is one thing. But what I'm saying is, my belief is, banning is not necessary and oftentimes creates the opposite of the desired effect. And this is all relates to law of attraction, but I think we'll end it there for today. So just be mindful of trends and be and social pressures and things, and that they're not coming from individuals per se, but that's a larger movement of evolution of human consciousness and awareness and experience. And we're going to be learning the truth about things. So don't get so mad at the trends, myself included, because they're natural movements, and in order to change the course of a river or something, it is important to take a step back and look at things from a broader, heightened awareness perspective. So knowing our history, knowing that where and why trends might come from where they do, and knowing that they're not fixated ideas that we have to be victims to, right? Not this, I have ADHD and suffer from it. Well, that could be true. The ultimate truth is that you have the power to be happy and fulfilled in your own life, regardless of what's going in and on and around you. So the way to kind of navigate things like that is by taking a look at what we ingest and why. So that's for today's little Should I Partake series. And why should I partake or not? And who even cares, right? Have a good day. And as always, if you enjoyed today's interaction with me, be sure to like, share, and follow me or subscribe to my social medias on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok and Facebook. The Facebook is The Peace Gardeners, at The Peace Gardeners. The rest of my socials, I believe, are just Peace Gardeners, because we are all peace gardeners and we're all in this together to cultivate peace for ourselves and the world. And if you'd like to book a reading with me, I do tarot as well as Akashic sessions, past life regressions, and channeled spirit messages. So for more information, you can go to thepeacegarden.square.site. Thank you so much. Have a great day. My name is Indigo Ray. My pronouns are she, her. Enjoy your lives and be unequivocally, unapologetically you. And that is an ever-evolving, ever-unfolding process. So enjoy the infinity and eternity and joy of that process. Ciao.